What's good, everybody? Welcome to the ODIN Project Foundation course. And in this video, let's talk about the new module that is our CSS Flexbox. In the previous video, we have already covered CSS foundations, and so in this video, let's talk about Flexbox. Let's dive into Flexbox. So, why Flexbox was created, its introduction, growing and shrinking, access alignment, and then there's a very interesting project that's the landing page project. So, for that, I'm really excited. So, without any further ado, let's move into uh, learning about CSS Flexbox. Before that, let me open the notes panel as well, so we can parallelly take notes. Taking notes is the most important part. I feel that like taking notes is everything. Now resources we already you have like probably seen this in other videos as well, that I have this resource to learn CSS Flexbox always pinned down in my Notion panel. So we'll go through this as well after we have like completed this module, because it will be a little bit easy for you to navigate. I'll just maybe I'll make a page over here of heading H1 CSS flex box. Let's make a page of it. So page, perfect. CSS flex box, nice. Let's study. Now let's move further with Flexbox. Alrighty, yeah. So introduction. As you learn, there are many ways to move elements around on a web page. New methods have been developed over the years, and older things have fallen out of style. Flexbox is new way of relatively new way of manipulating elements in CSS, and its debut was revolutionary. Many resources put in near the end of the curriculum because it is somewhat new as a technology, but at this point it has become the default way of positioning elements for many developers. Flexbox will be one of the most used tools in your toolbox, so why not learn it first? Let's maybe dive into a smaller history of CSS Grid and Flexbox. Since the release of WebBoss CSS Grid in the early 2018, found Twitter has been abuzz with reviews and enthusiasts. This has led to a few developers commencing comparisons between Flex and Grid layouts due to some of the similarities. With this comes the question: should I really learn Grid since I already know Flex? So my short answer to this question is yes. If you want, you can stop reading now. However, it would be beneficial if you give a few reasons why this is so. However, before we go into these, it is important to lay a few foundations, like history of how these layouts came into existence. This article is a summary of two articles I researched on. They can be summarized as follows. The Flexbox layout today is very different what was first proposed. The CSS working group had proposed idea of a flex layout in 2008, publishing the first working draft in 2009. The original specification was based on XUL, the technology used by Firefox to produce UI designs. Unfortunately, according to Tab Atkins Jr., who is often referred to as the main author of the Flex layout and Grid layout, said that this was woefully underspecified. The layout algorithm was slow, and between the two implementations, WebKit and Firefox, there were loads of divergent details. It also worked differently across both the implementations. So for CSS Grid, this was actually initially introduced by Microsoft with a proposal that they submitted to the CSS working group. According to Dr. Bert Boss, who co-created CSS with Hank or William Lee, who also sat on the grid-based grid-based layout have actually been on his mind for quite some time, even before the draft. However, they were not deemed to be they were deemed too complex to implement. This, however, did not stop both the creators from bringing out some preliminary efforts. But none of these ever got shipped to any of the browser despite the enthusiasm of these offerings, with grid concepts being thrown at the foot of CSS of the working groups with some regularity. Folks were hopeful one of them would stick eventually. Fortunately, one of them did, with a candidate recommendation implemented 2016 with Tab Atkins Jr. being the main author. So it was a good walkthrough of CSS, Grid, and Flexbox. So technically they are same, but yep, they are different and they have different origins. Let's walk through the lesson overview. In this section contains a general overview of topics that you learn in the lesson. You will learn how to position elements using Flexbox. You will learn about flex containers and flex items. You will learn how to create useful components and layouts that go beyond just stacking and centering elements. Before we get started, Flexbox layout can get a little complicated. In the previous lesson, you learned how to inspect and debug things using the browser developer tools. Those tools will be crucial for you in the following lesson. If something isn't behaving the way you expect, inspecting it in the developer tool should be your first step every time. Without any further ado, let's start the Flexbox. Let's start the Flex. So let's start the Flexbox. Flexbox is a way to arrange items into rows or columns. These items will flex, that is, grow or shrink on the basis of simple rules that you can define. To get started, let's look at the simple demonstration for all the exercises here. Take your time to inspect the code and really understand what's going on. In fact, playing with the code yourself will make it much easier to retain the information. Alright, so let's open Visual Studio Code now. Let me switch to a different desktop. Much more easier for us to navigate though. Alright, let's open a new project maybe. Right. CS Foundation CSS Foundation course basic HTML readme.md. Let me just open inside the foundation course. Let's add Foundation Flexbox. I'll have an index.html. Now from now onwards I'll start maybe configuring and categorizing the files into HTML, and there's another folder, CSS, because it's very crucial to have some kind of file indentation always. That's the first basic step of being a good developer. DATF Foundation Flexbox. I'm going to enable word wrap, and then after that I'll just have style.css. In the CSS folder, I'll just have, I'm gonna take it, let me just close the terminal. I'll just put it down. Yup. All right, that's how we write it. Now let's link the CSS file, styles.css. For that we'll have to navigate /dash css styles.css. Perfect. CSS file is linked. That's how we'll do a setup. So setup is complete. Let's run it on live server. Where is the live server? Go to definition. HTML index.html. Go to definition, definition. Why I cannot find the live server? This is something new. Okay. Oh my god. I guess there's some kind of problem with my Visual Studio Code, maybe. Let me just open it once again. All my installed add-on has been just vanished. I don't know what just happened with my VS Code. That just doesn't just really happen. Alright, but whatever the case may be, let's, without any further ado, images, then I'll have to install some of the Alright, yeah, so the setup took a little bit of time. I don't know what really happened here, but eventually somehow my entire VS code is resetted. I don't know how this happened, but I'm sure even my shortcuts are, oh no, shortcuts are there, but all the add-ons have been like, they're just not there anymore. Anyways, no worries, let's not sweat over it right now. Open live server, and let's open the live server here. And all right, live server is here. Let me just close it. Alrighty, so let's just, this is a page. Perfect, page is working fine. Let's move on to the Flexbox. I'm so sorry for taking so much of your time, but yeah. So let's create a div. Inside a div there's a class. Let's copy paste it. Copy pasting. Have CSS. Control C. We'll just copy paste the CSS over here. Alright, so what we did here is, so we have a div class flex container. Alright, so we have this flex container and then inside we have three classes, class 1 to 3 divs with class 1, 2 and 3. And after that we have inside, then we have selected the chain selector. Using chain selector, what we have done is selected this class, and inside inside this class, every div, if I create another div, let's say for example div dot 4, this will also inherit the same property. All right, we'll get into exactly what's going on here soon, but for now let's uncomment the two flex related CSS declarations of code by removing and tags surrounding them. Then so if we remove this, for example, let's see what would happen. Well, technically nothing happened. So yeah, nothing happened. So let's comment comments prevent the browser from, oh, that's what a comment is. All right, so probably won't dive into that. And then if you add another edge, all the divs now should have been arranged horizontally. If you resize them, the frame with the 1x 0.5x and 2x, but then you also see that the divs will flex. They will fit in the available area to the equal width. Result HTML CSS. If I remove this, let's see what happens. Let me just maybe redo this once. I don't know what's the whole point. If you add another div to the HTML inside of the flex container, it will show up alongside the others, and everything will flex to fit within the available area. Let's maybe try doing it once. Let me just comment it out once again. And so I am not sure what was the point. Let's say div dot 4. Another one appeared, but nothing happened. Still, maybe it'll make some sense. But it's hard to see what's going on in the small embedded code. And feel free to click around the full size for more interactive explanation. Try to let us know what do you think of these.
Hey there! In this lecture, you're going to learn how to create your very first Flexbox layout using the example you can see on the page here. I've already added a little bit of styling in the basic.css file, though this has nothing to do with the Flexbox itself. Here in the index.html, you can see the markup for the example. It contains a nav element with the class of container, and inside of that container, we have 3 divs, which are the flex items. As you might guess, we're going to create a navbar here, as this displays home, search, and logout. Now, the first thing you need to understand is the concept of a container and its items, as that's always how you build up your Flexbox layout. They don't have to be divs or navs. Could have been UL element, and this could be list element. Container, they turn into flex items. The container, a border, which you can see, but as we haven't done this into lines up the elements on top of each other. So to turn this into a Flexbox layout, simply give the container a display of flex. As you can see, it automatically lines up the elements horizontally as opposed to vertically as it was before. So by default, Flexbox will distribute the items going from left to right. And as you also can see, the Flexbox container is by default a block element, as it takes up all available space in the width, except for the little margin I've added to the left and right hand side. Okay, so that was a very quick introduction to Flexbox. In the next lecture, I'm going to teach you about the concept of access, as that is core in order to understand Flexbox properly. So I'll see you there.
Got it. So this was just a small video. Still, this lesson seems a little bit few, but let's go ahead for the flex container and flex items. As you have seen, Flexbox is not just a single CSS property, but a whole toolbox of properties that you can use to put things where you need them. Some of these properties belong on the flex container, while some go on the flex item. This is yet an important concept. A flex container is an empty element that has display flex. So if I need to explain you what flex container is, let me just alright, if I let's open this draw once. Alright, so this is, let's say if we have a web page, for example. So this is I don't know why my laptop is behaving a little bit weirdly today. Don't know what the reason. So yeah, this is the flex container. Inside flex containers, we have flex items. So we can have multiple flex items in that. Each and every flex item is a separate entity of its own. Flex item 1, for example, this is flex item 2, and this is flex item 3. Amazing. So this is what flex item is. Right. So if I so maybe let's try to code this one first of all, and after that let's maybe after that we'll try to do something about it. Here we have this. So what we want to do is just display flex. Inside one container, one flex container, there are multiple. Display is equals to flex. Again, this is not working. Let me just check it once. Index.css preview, run notes, container div padding, container is greater than class div. Container, somewhat confusingly, an element can both be a flex and a flex. Somewhat confusingly, an element can be both a flex container and a flex item. Said another way, you can also put display flex. Oh, okay, an item. So you can also put display flex on a flex item and then use flexbox to arrange its children. Flex item, also a flex container, and within that we can have flex item. Creating nested multiple flex containers and items is is the primary way we will be building a complex layouts. The following image was archived using flexbox to arrange size and place various elements. Flexbox is a very powerful tool. What is the difference between flex container and flex item? I'll create flex item. Sources and alright. I'm gonna save this because it feels like a very good resource. The Flexbox or Flex layout offers an alternative to floats for defining the overall appearance of web page, whereas floats only let us horizontally position our boxes. Flexbox gives us complete control over the alignment and direction. Just maybe for the sake of it, Control C. Would maybe copy it once. Control over just this 4. Yeah. Complete control over the alignment direction. The web is currently undergoing major transition. So, as a little discussion around the state of the industry is warranted. For the last decade or so, floats were the sole option for laying out a complex web page. As a result, they're well supported even in legacy browsers, and developers are using to build millions of web pages. This means you'll inevitably run into floats during your web development career. So, previous chapter wasn't a totally waste. However, floats were originally intended to intended for the magazine style layouts that were covered if in float contents. Despite what we saw last chapter, the kind of layouts you can create with floats are actually somewhat limited. Even a simple sidebar layout is technically speaking a little bit of a hack. Flexbox was invented to break out these limitations. We are finally at a point where browser support has critical mass and developers can start building full websites with Flexbox. Our recommendation is to use Flexbox layout your web page as much as possible, reserving floats of when you need text to flow around a box, that is magazine style layout, or when you need to support legacy web browsers. Floats, and technically we have Flexbox magazine style layout, and then we have overall page structure. In this chapter, we'll explore the entire Flexbox layout step by step. You should walk comfortably around where you are. So, for example, of this chapter is really, but it's clearly demonstrated of the important Flexbox. We'll wind up with something like which looks like this. For starters, we'll need. For starters, we'll for starters we'll need an empty HTML document that contains nothing but menu bar. Make a new atom project called Flexbox to house all the example files. Flexbox.html and add the following markup style sheet for social web. I'm just gonna maybe copy this and copy to our own web page. Control C, and let's copy this over here. Control V, and let's just remove all this. Menu date login sign up. Next we need to create the corresponding styles sheet. This won't look like much, just a full width blue menu bar with a white border in it. So that we'll be using Flexbox instead of a traditional auto margin technique to center the menu. So first of all, let's add the universal styles. Then we have the menu container. All right. And then inside the menu class we have border for debugging, okay, which we remove later. Perfect. Let me just copy paste it. Dot menu. So that's just for the debugging and stuff. That's it. Yeah, that's the complete setup. Finally download some images for asked me to download some images, so I'm gonna maybe just put it where my coding project is. Foundation Flexbox, new folder, images, save, and let me go to the Finder, downloads, and application, coding, web development, ODIN project, Foundation Flexbox, images. images. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. Let me just check my VS Code. Do we have the folder? Images folder. Yeah, we have the SVGs with us, and unzip them into Flexbox project, keeping the parent image directory. Your project should look like this before moving on. Exactly, we match the requirement. Yeah. So Flexbox uses two types of boxes that we have never seen before: Flex Container and Flex Item. The job of Flex Container is to group a bunch of Flex items together and define how they are positioned. Every HTML element that's a direct child of a Flex Container is an item. Is an item. I feel like this is a very important information, so I'm gonna maybe copy paste it. Control C, and I'll just paste it over here. Flex Container. Perfect. There are two types of boxes that we've never seen before: Flexbox and Flex Containers. The job of Flex Container. Back control. The job of Flex Container is to group a bunch of Flex items together. Define how they're positioned. Every HTML element that's a direct child of a Flex Container is an item. Flex items can be manipulated, but for the most part of it, it is up to the container to determine the layout. The main purpose of flex items are to let the container know how many things is needed to position. As the float-based layout defining complex web pages with Flexbox, all about with Flexbox is all about nesting boxes. You align a bunch of Flexbox item inside a container and you work your way through it. Flex containers. The first step in using Flexbox. The first step in using Flexbox is to turn one of our HTML element into Flex container. We do this with the help of display property, which should be familiar with CSS box model. CSS box model chapter. By giving it a value of flex, we are telling the browser that everything should be rendered with Flexbox instead of the default box model. Add the following line to arm.menu container rule to turn it into a flex. Menu container. That's all. This the entire want display is equals to flex. This enables the Flexbox layer. Just wait a minute. Perfect. This has been converted into Flex. I was just worried that the properties are not applying. This enables the Flexbox layout mode without it. The browser will ignore all the Flexbox properties that we are about to introduce. Explicitly defining Flex container means that you can mix and match Flexbox with other layouts. Flex, not Flexbox. Perfect. Great. Now we have a Flex container with one Flex item in it. However, our page will look exactly like it before if we haven't told the container how to display items. Aligning a Flex item. After that, you have got Flex container. Your next job is to align the horizontal to define the horizontal elements of its item. That's why justify content properties for. We can use it to center our menu. So justify content, center. Perfect. So this has the same effect as adding margin 0 auto declaration to the menu element. But notice how we did this by adding a property to the parent element Flex container. Instead of directly to the element, we wanted to center the Flex item. manipulating items through their container. This is a common theme in Flexbox, and it's a bit of a divergence from how how we have been positioning boxes thus so far. Maybe I'm gonna copy paste this in image with it. Other values for justify contents are shown below. Flex center. I'm gonna copy this as well. See, we, this is for code. Would be anyways, justify content JUS DIFI content dash content, so can have following values. Anyways, now let's move forward. Try changing justify content to start, and this should align the menu to left and right, the browser window, respectively. So let's change it to center, and we can have space around, did nothing, space between. Alright, did something. Center, left, right, POTTO, bottom. That's not a keyword. Oh. Let me just do. So this is this is the justify content JUSDIFY content center, and then we have the distributing multiple flex item. Big deal. You might be saying we can do left right alignment with floats and centering, but we don't actually use left right. Space around and space between are technically clearly explained in this diagram, so we're gonna reference that. Change our menu rule to match the following. With pixel, see, turns. Oh, okay. I'm so sorry. I did a blunder. Didn't have to change this, but we'll change the dot menu. Space around. After that, inside dot menu, we'll curate it in this way. Inside the dot menu, let's have it like this. What we did was we added a border, and we added a width, then display flex, then sign it. What's good, everybody? This is Vandadabay, and welcome back to the channel. Pretty excited for this video. We are picking up the Flexbox from where we have left in the previous video, and sorry for the delay in the upload. I was a little bit occupied, but now it's December 9th, and it's Friday, so I'm gonna try to keep uploading the videos in the same pace, in the continuous pace. So in the previous video, what we did was, first of all, we created this web page. Okay, so we have progressed till here. We created the nav bar. What I want to do over here is, maybe, let's design this entire thing from scratch once again. So let me just open a code pen, and we'll you know technically browse through this entire customary once again. I'll just take a div class, give it menu contai menu container. After that, we'll close this div over here. All right, now after that we have div. I just don't remember the exact class name, so let me refer. We have class menu, date, sign, and login. Perfect. We have a div of menu of class, which is menu, and again we'll close this div, slash div. Inside this we'll have another div. Let me just copy, write this, and then maybe copy this and then paste, because code pen doesn't give you any suggestions. So yeah, just control C, control C, and control V, and control V. Perfect. So I'll have the date, and what was there was sign up. So there was the class named sign up, SIGNUP, sign up, and then there was the class login. Let me just write the today's date, DEC 9th, DECEMBER, December 2022. And can't believe it's the date. Sign up. Perfect. Then we'll have the login. So the entire structure of the HTML is very simple. Now first of all, let's take the dot menu container. All right, menu dash container. We'll give it a background color of blue. Margin will be 0. Padding will be 0. Okay, so let me just we'll have a universal selector. Margin would be 0. Padding would be 0. Perfect. Let me just copy the hex code of this color. Control C, Control V. Make sure to put a hash before using these values. Alright, and color would be white. Perfect. Now display flex. So inside the menu container, so now what we'll do is, let's say, add a border of solid border 1 pixel solid white. Perfect. Margin, now do we added margin? Nope. Color, and we added padding on top of 20 pixels and 0 in top to bottom. There's no use of adding border here. We'll add border in the menu class dot menu, and inside this we'll have the border first, just for the debugging purposes. Then display flex, and then the justify content space around. Save. So this is the entire container. Nothing would happen, but let's first of all change this into a flex container. So display equals to flex space around. Now display flex justify content will and space between between space between. Now let's add margin. There's just another, we'll have to specify width of the following, that's 900 pixels. And amazing, we coded the entire thing. So that's the same look which we have now. Just have to increase the font size. Not really. Yeah, looks perfect. So now without any further ado, let's yeah, it's looking like this. Perfect. Now let's start with the distributing multiple flex items. Big deal, you might be saying. We can do left right alignment with floats and centering with auto margins. True, Flexbox doesn't show its real strength until we have more than one element in a container. Justify content property also lets you to distribute items equally inside the container. So just as we use spaced around and space between, supposedly if I use spaced around here, see, the entire space will be equally distributed within each and every element of the within each and every element of the flex container. So if you want, I can just give you a quick example by just maybe, let's say, taking the date class and then apply a border property to it. Applying the border property to it, let's say I'll just make it red. So equal space, the amount of pixels over here and the amount of pixels over here are completely equal. If I change it to between, then each and every element will have same space over here. All right, great. Now let's move on. The justify content property also lets you to distribute item equally inside a container, space around and space between. Change our items to on menu, and so yeah, we have done it till here. Now we have to group the flex containers only know how to position elements that are one level deep, that is their child elements. They don't care one bit about what's inside their flex items. This means that grouping flex items in is another weapon in your layout creation arsenal. Wrapping a bunch of items in an extra div results in a totally different web page. So no grouping 3 flex items. Group items, we have 2 flex items. For example, let's say you want sign up. You want both the sign up and login links to be on the right side of the page, as in the screenshot below. All we need to do is stick another div between them. Instead of having 3 items in our dot menu flex container, now it has only 2, date and links. Under the existing space between under the existing space between behavior, they'll snap to the left side of the page. Let's try and test this. Div dot links, and inside this yeah, div dot links, I'll write div dot links. Let me just increase the size a little bit so that you can view it properly. And then we'll have this over here, and what I'll do is technically, yeah, exactly, see, we wrapped up it in a div, and now we the space around property has already been applied to this. And since they are enclosed in a div, and inside this div there is no like it is not a flex container, so it is like showing its default behavior right now. Now what you need to do is, so instead of having 3 items in a flexbox, now we have only 2, dot date and dot links under the existing space between behavior, and they'll snap to the left and right side of the page. So this has been snapped to the, this is another div and this is another div. So this has been like technically snapped to the left side, and this has been snapped to the right side, while maintaining this entire flex container the property of space between. So we have the space between property. Let me just change, if we change this to space around, so these both will come to the center. Get it, how it's working. So between, yeah. But now we need to lay out dot links element, because it's using the default block layout mode. One more solution is to nest but now we need to lay out the links element, because it is using the default block layout, because definitely it's by default it's in block mode. So the solution is nest more flex containers, add a new rule to our styles.css that turns the dot link elements into flex. So we'll have dot link class over here, dot link, and we'll turn it into display flex. Perfect. Justify content, display flex, justify content to, let's say, right. It's not working. Add a new rule to styles dot css files that turns the element into a flex container. Okay, so this has been converted into a flex element. Mm, and this and login left margin to flex end. Okay, it's links. Sorry, named the class wrong. Left. Let's try to do this. See what will happen. Left, right, flex end, and then margin left of 20 pixels, so they won't be jam packed together. 20 pixels. Sign up and login. Sign up. So inside this, each and every element now dot login. I'll have to give it a margin left of 20 pixels. Perfect. This will put our links wherever we want them. Notice the margins. Notice that the margins still work like they did in CSS box model. And as the normal box model, auto margins have a special meaning in Flexbox. We leave that for the end of the chapter though. We don't need those white borders anymore, so we can just cut those out for the time being. And so now just let's move these borders menu and just comment it out. This is just for debugging. Now, cross axis and vertical alignment. So far we have been manipulating horizontal alignment. Let me just go to web CS Flexbox cheat sheet web dev. I'm sure that this guy might have a cheat sheet available for the same. Let me download a Flexbox. Let me just download a cheat sheet, because what really happens is technically it becomes a little bit more easy. And let's save this document first of all. Let's bookmark it. It's a very good document. Okay. Oh wow, we got that's amazing. We got a Flexbox patterns. We got a Flexbox patterns website. That's such an amazing thing to have, tab 1, tab 2, tab 3, tab 4. Amazing. Cross-axis vertical alignment. So far we have been manipulating horizontal alignments, but Flex containers can also define the vertical alignment of their items. This is something that's not simply possible with floats. Justify content, align items. To explore this, we need to add a header underneath our menu. Our menu. Add the following markup to the markup to the flexbox after the menu dot container element. Okay, header container. Let's copy this and technically paste this. All right. Now add some basic styles to the to get it aligned with our dot menu element. So let's try to do this on our own first of all. So what we have here is we have the header container, then we have the header items with us, and inside the header items we have subscribe, logo, and social. So before doing anything, let's have this header container, and then let's copy paste its styles. I am absolutely sorry for all the background noises. The construction is going on at its full pace, so situation is currently out of hand. Yeah, so background we have display flex, and then the entire thing has been shifted towards the center. And now what we have here is we have the header, and the width and height of the header has been specified. This should be fair. This should all be familiar. However, scenario is a little bit different. Since the dot header has an explicit height, items can be positioned vertically inside of it. The following specification calls this cross-axis alignment. We'll see why in a moment. But for our purpose, it might as well be vertical alignment. Vertical alignment is defined as the vertical alignment is defined as adding an align item property to a flex container, making our page match the above screenshot. Inside the header, you have to align items at the center. Inside the header, we have to write align items at the center. Oh, perfect. So aligns the entire stuff into in like the vertical axis. In the vertical axis, like the justify content works in the horizontal axis, and then this works in the vertical axis. So available options for align items may be similar to justify content. Let's open Notion for that, not notification, Notion. Let me. We have CSS Flexbox container, justify container. we'll use to property of this, the available options. Let's see, just paste it over here, Control V. Add the screenshot as well, really helps you to understand the following. Copy, save to desktop, copy, save to clipboards, save to clipboard, embedding the image, flex start, flex center, flex end, flex stretch. Inside this, flex start is on the very left side, flex center is on the center, and flex end is at the end of the like the web page of the right side, the complete right side of the web page. Most of these are pretty straightforward. This stretch option is worth taking a minute to play with, because it's you to display the background of each element. Take a brief look by adding the following styles: align items to stretch, stretch, and let's just Control C, add this as well. Oh, see, let's say if we do it to start, end, center, and let's go with the baseline as well. Baseline will probably, slump it down. Oh, okay, haven't got that right. Yeah. Now let's have this as center. The box for each item extends to full height of the flex container, regardless of how much content is contained. A common use case for the following behavior is creating equal height columns with a variable amount of content in each. Once something is very difficult to do with floats, be sure to delete the following changes. Yes, sure. Before header, before moving on. Perfect. Now, Flexbox is a more powerful tool alternative to float based grids. Not only can it render item within a grid, it can change the alignment, direction, order, and size too. To create a grid, we need a flex wrap property. So let's add the flex wrap property in our notes as well. Let's just add flex wrap property. Wrap, no wrap. Let me add the image as well. Flex wrap. First of all, let's study about Flexbox wrap. Flexbox wrap is a powerful alternative to float. Let me just first of all copy paste this image over here. Copy to clipboard, and then let's paste it over here. Perfect. So that's wrapping for us. Add a row of photos to Flexbox image so that we can have something to work with. So this should go inside the body. First of all, let's take this and let's copy it, and these images won't be visible. We need to add this. .svg. 2.svg, HTML images 3.svg. We have 1.svg, we have 2.svg, we have 3.svg. Perfect. See, we have 3 images with us now. Alrighty. So let's move on further. Again, the corresponding CSS should be familiar from the previous section. What we need is, first of all, photo grid container display flex. First of all, we need to convert this photo grid container to a flex item, to a flex container, sorry. Dot photo grid item display flex, and justify content right, or flex end. Perfect. So it's working. Now we know. Justify content center according to the website. So justify content center. We have this. Now it's photo grid should be, now let's dot photo grid considering this entire flex start photo grid item with the border worth of gonna add a border of, gonna add white border in it. All right, so what we did was, first of all, converted this entire area, the entire thing to a flex container. Inside this we have flex items. Now we have flex item now. So each and every photo grid element is now a flex item in itself, and now we can arrange it as we please. Now photo to grid item, we have set the border and width for the same. Now let's move forward. This should work and as expected, but watch what happens next when we add more items that can fit into the flex container. Insert extra 2 divs into the photo.div. Let's say photo grid. Inside the photo grid we're gonna add some more divs. Let me just indent the, not correct the file path for the same. I won't be able to see it, but yeah, will look something like, see, if I make the if I zoom into it, see this 5 image overflows through our entire window content, and which does not looks really good, right? So now let's see, the entire content is overflowing. So what we'll do is, first of all, now this is where if I do flex end, something weird happens, which should not technically. Flex start, and yeah, that's how we're gonna move forward with this. Yeah. Now by default they'll show off to the edge of the page. If you're trying to build a hero banner that lets the user horizontally scroll through a bunch of photos, this might be the desired behavior, but that is not what we want. Adding the adding the following flex wrap property forces the items that do not fit to bump down to the next row. Flex wrap inside the photo grid. Inside the photo grid, what we'll have is flex wrap, and that's how we do it. Now our flex items behave much like floated boxes, except flexbox gives us more control over how extra items are aligned in the final row via the justify content property. For example, the last line is currently left aligned. Try centering it by updating a photo grid rule, like so. Justify content center. Let me just change all this. I'll just copy paste this. Mm. Copy pasting this. Wrap photo grid, flex wrap, yeah, align center. Now it works. Yeah, perfect. This should work as expected, but watch what happens when we add 205. Perfect. Now, direction refers to whether a container renders its item horizontally or vertically. So far, container we have seen uh, we have seen use the containers. We have used the default horizontal direction, which means the items are drawn one after another in the same row before popping down to the next column when they run out of space. Row flex direction, row and flex direction. Now we're gonna work with the flex direction. One of the most amazing things about Flexbox is its ability to transform rows into columns using only single lines of CSS. Try adding the following flex direction to a declaration to a photo grid. Flex direction to column. Flex direction. Column. This changes the direction of the container from the default row value. Instead of grid, our page will now look like this, as we see over here. Let me just zoom it out for you. See, looks like this. A key tenet of responsive design is presenting HTML, the same HTML markup for both mobile and desktop user. This presents a bit of problem as mobile layouts are single column while desktop layouts stack elements horizontally. Can imagine how useful flex direction is going to be once we start building responsive layouts. Responsive layouts are those kinds of layouts, which change their text and indentations according to the size of the window. See, like this changes. See, the image is changing the size as soon as I work with the increase or decrease the size. Alignment consideration. Notice that the column is hugging the left side of its flex center container despite a justify center declaration. When you rotate the direction of the container, you also rotate the direction of the justify content property. Now it refers to the container's vertical alignment, not horizontal alignment. This is like the most tricky part of the entire CSS, of the entire Flexbox. When flex direction is set to row, this is the justify content, and align items is the align item is for the horizontal. As soon as you make it to column, align items become the x-axis and justify content becomes the y-axis. To horizontally center our column, we need to define an align items center to our photo grid. This, see, this is like technically grasping this concept is a little bit tricky. So So yeah, now let's talk about flex container order. We have four types of orders. We have column, row reverse, column reverse. So that's like pretty self-explanatory. So let me just, up until now, there's been a tight correlation between the order of our HTML elements and the way boxes are rendered in a web page. With either floats or the flexbox techniques we have seen so far, the only way we could make a box appear before or after another one is to move it around, underlying the HTML markup. That's about to change. The flex direction property also offers you control over the order in which item appears via the row reverse or and the column reverse properties. To see this in action, let's transform our column back into a grid, but this time around we'll reverse the order of everything. So let's just take this and change a few row reverse. So as you can see, each and every row within itself is reversed rather than reversing the order of the entire thing. The I mean one row is reversed. If we hadn't used the the wrap property, then the case would have been different. But right now, the column has been reversed, and the reversing is taking place from the left side as well. Both rows are now rendered right to left instead of left to right. But notice how this only swaps the order on pre-row basis. The first row doesn't start at 5, it starts with 3. This is a useful behavior for a lot of common design patterns. Column reverse particularly opens up a lot of doors for mobile layouts. We learn how to get even more granular in the next section. Reordering the elements from inside a style sheet is a big deal. Before, Flexbox web developer had to resort to JavaScript hacks to accomplish this kind of thing. However, don't abuse your newfound abilities. As we discussed in the very first chapter of this tutorial, you should always separate content from presentation. Changing the order like this is purely presentational. HTML still should make sense without these styles applied to it. Flex item order. This entire chapter has been about positioning flex item through their parent containers. But it is also possible to manipulate individual items. The rest of the chapter is going to shift focus from flex containers to only flex item. Let me just modify the notes as well. And here are the notes. Let me just copy paste it to clipboard. Nice. Yeah. Now let's move to the flex. The entire chapter has been positioning. So adding an order property to a flex item defines its order in the container without affecting surrounding items. Its value default is 0, and increasing or decreasing it moves the item from left to right respectively. This can be used, for example, to swap the order of the first item and the last element in our group. Should also change the row reverse values from the previous section back to row, because it will make our edits a little bit easier. Inside the photo grid, let's upgrade. Let's just change this and then add this. C. Unlike setting row reverse, the column reverse on and column reverse on a flex container, order works across row column boundaries. This the above snippet will switch our first and last items even though they appear on different rows. Flex item alignments. We can do the same thing with vertical alignment. Whatever we want the subscribe link and those links icon to go at the bottom of the header inside the center. Align them individually. This is where align self properties comes in. Adding this to the flex item overrides the align items value from its container. Align self property is technically a very good property. We wanna, ever align some specific paths. So this should send them to the bottom of the header. Note that the margin padding works too, just like you expect. You can align align elements in other ways using the same values with the align items property listed from the below. Convenience. Flexible items. All our examples have revolved around items with fixed or content defined widths. This has let our focus on the positioning aspects of Flexbox, but it also means we have been ignoring its eponymous flexible box nature. Flex items are flexible. They can shrink and stretch to match the width of our container. Flex properties define the width of individual items in a flex container, or more accurately, it allows them to have flexible widths. It works as a weight that tells the flex container how to distribute extra space into each item. For example, an item with a flex value 2 will grow twice as fast as item with the default value of 1. First, we need a footer to experiment this one. Stick this after the photo grid container. So technically, let's take this and then let's add the following CSS property to it. The flex one line, that flex one line tells the item to stretch to match the width of the dot footer class. Since they have all the same weight and they'll stretch equally, increasing the weight of one of the items will make it grow faster than others. For example, we can make the third item grow twice as fast by providing this value. Okay. Compared to this justify content property, which distributes extra space between the items, this is similar, but now we are distributing that space into the items themselves. The result is full control over how flex item fits into the container. Static item widths we can mix and match flexible boxes with fixed ones. Initial fallbacks to the flex items explicit width property. This lets us to combine static and flexible boxes in complex ways. You're going to make our footer behave like above diagram. The center item is flexible, but the other one sideways will remain all the same size. All we need to do is add the following rule to us style sheet. Without that flex initial line, the flex 1 declaration would be inherited from the dot footer item rule. dot footer item rule, causing the width property to be ignored. Initial fixes this, and we get a flexible layout that also contains fixed width items. When you resize the browser window, you'll see that only the middle box in the footer gets resized. Let's This is a common pretty layout, not just in footer either, but for instance, many websites have fixed sidebars or multiple sidebars and a flexible content block containing the main text of the page. This basically a taller version of the footer we just created. Let's just try to first of all. Oh, see, did you just see what happened here? If you definitely can get it by, after we resize the window. Flex items and auto margins, very important, very important. Flex items and auto margin is technically like a very important portion. Auto margins in Flexbox are special and we used as an alternative to an extra div. When trying to align a group of items to the left or right of a container, think of auto margins as divider for flex items in the same container. Let's take a look by flattening our items uh, in dot menu so that it matches the following. And then sign up. Let's do the dot sign up auto margin left auto. Perfect. We can replicate the desired layout by sticking an auto margin between the items we want to separate. So auto margin eats up all the extra space in left side container. So instead of distributing items equally, this moves signups following item login to the right side of the container. This will give you the exact same layout as before. Perfect. Let's go walk through the summary. Flexbox gave us a ton of amazing new tools for laying out a web page. Compare these techniques to what we were able to do with floats, and it should be pretty clear that Flexbox is a cleaner option for laying out modern website. Use display flex to create flex container. Use justify content to to define the horizontal alignment of items. Use align items to define the vertical alignments. Use flex direction for the direction. Use row reverse row columns to flip the orders. Use order to customize the order of the individual elements. Use align cell to vertically align the call. Use align self to vertically align the individual items. Use flex to create flex boxes that can stretch and shrink. Remember, these flexbox properties are just a language that lets you tell the browser how to arrange a bunch of HTML elements. The hard part isn't actually writing the HTML and CSS code, it's figuring out conceptually on a piece of paper all behavior of all the necessary box to create a given layout. When a designer hands you a mock-up to implement, your first task is to draw a bunch of boxes on it and determine how they are supposed to stretch, shrink, or to achieve the desired design. Once you've got that done, it should be pretty easy to code it up using these new Flexbox techniques. The Flexbox layout mode should be used for most of your web pages, but there are some things it is not so good at, like gently tweaking element position and preventing them from interacting with the rest of the page. After covering these kinds of advanced topics, advanced positioning technique in the next chapter, you will be an HTML and CSS positioning expert. But that can becoming an expert can wait, and we can just move for we can just go through the Flexbox lesson and additional resources. Okay, so looks like we have finally completed this growing and shrinking the element. Okay, so in the next video, I guess this is all for the first video. In the very first video, we have completed the mostly each and everything in Flexbox. I'll link these notes in the description. You can go and check out the notes if you want. And in the next video, let's talk about let's I mean we have already gone through the growing and shrinking, how the elements grow and shrink, access and alignment. But let's it will act as a refresher for us. So in the next video, we'll complete all these three modules, and then we'll move forward with the most the thing which I'm excited about the most, which is the project landing page. I want to do this project so badly. So let's finish this, and let's after that, let's try to build out our project. So that is it for this video, guys, and I'll see you in the next video where we complete all these three modules. Until then, bye bye, see ya, and have a great day ahead. Thank you so much for joining.